Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And Nate, we are looking at the NBA Finals, specifically some series prices here, I suppose some futures you could call them, as we look at some player stuff and obviously some stuff for these teams as we move forward finally with the NBA Finals. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We're also covering Game 1 with a best bets and player props video as always. We also want you to head to thelines.com, check out all the great written content we are putting up on the site this postseason, and use that odds finder tool up there. Make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all these books that are giving us bets in this NBA postseason. Let's not waste any time at all here, Nate. Let's jump right into your first best, I guess, series price, we'll call it, for this video.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Jokic is a massive favorite to be the MVP of this series. He's a massive favorite to lead the series in rebounding and assists, like minus 20,000. But you can get plus odds for him to be the leading scorer in this series. And I don't think that that's out of the question at all. The way Jimmy Butler is slowed down to a degree, and the way Miami is able to defend point guards, even though they don't have a great individual matchup for Jamal Murray, I think they'll find ways to limit him, to muck things up, make him take tough shots, etc. But Joker, he's already outscored Murray in these playoffs. He's averaging 30, Murray averaging 27.5, including spikes against the Suns, a ridiculous 53 and a loss when they're trying to muck it up. I mean, Bam is not DeAndre Ayton. Let's get that off the top here. I mean, could not be more polar opposites in terms of their, steadiness, competitive nature, attitude. But it hasn't really mattered against the Joker. I'm sure you've heard the numbers everywhere that Joker's won the last 6 matchups. He's only averaging 22 points per game, but he has a 168 offensive rating, getting whatever he wants, shooting 69% in his last 4 against Miami. Some of those, with Bam, some only 1 or 2 without. And can you imagine could you name a better defensive matchup than Anthony Davis for the Joker? And the Lakers couldn't even keep him on Joker individually. They had to try to use him as a roamer off. The Heat don't have another big. It's all on Bam. It's all on his shoulders. That's why he's like, I guess, an outside shot to be a finals MVP candidate. If Miami somehow is in the series, it's because he's mucking things up with the Joker. But we haven't seen anything flap the Joker. I mean, he is completely unflappable. His last 3 years in the playoffs, averaging over 30 points per game with a 33.5 usage rate. That's a 4% usage rate higher and 4 more points per game than he gets in the regular season. So the fact that he doesn't score that much against Miami in the regular season, less important. And I think Denver, the key to this series on the surface here is, can Denver punish Miami for its lack of size? Like I said, Bam is the only center. Kevin Love and Cody Zeller are going to be thrown in there as like token guards of guarding Joker. I mean, I don't know how long they can stay out there at all. Boston, completely went away from trying to attack Miami's lack of size and get there down low. And I think the way Spoelstra tries to adjust things, especially when you look at a guy whose greatest weapon is his assist making, I think you could see Spoelstra kind of go the other way, where we see sometimes coaches scheme to say, you know what, let's let Joker score 30, 35, 40, and let's just try to damp down everybody else. Let's not give up open threes. I mean, that's kind of Miami's style. They are very familiar with limiting Boston threes from this last series and Milwaukee as well. I mean, Giannis put up huge numbers when he was out there, but nobody else really got going. So I could see him just having higher usage and other Denver guys not scoring as much. And I think over the course of the series, even if he has a couple 23-point games in there, I think he'll also have those huge blowups, and he will eventually lead the series in average scoring.
Yeah, I think it's a good call. I was definitely going to take it as well, and it's a little bit better on DraftKings at plus 115. So definitely keep shopping it, but it's not going to get much better. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity to bet it after game 1 and get even better odds if he has a lower scoring game. I don't really want to take that chance. Obviously, his points prop's a bit higher than Jamal's in this game as well. I don't think either of us like a ton of points either for this series in general, which only kind of leads to us believing in Jokic more. There's just not going to be as many shots for other guys necessarily, and the usage is going to continue to be high. So, I like everything for him. I don't think he has time to play around with trying to get his guys involved. I think he's just got to just make sure that they win this series and still play as a facilitator, obviously, and you can definitely continue to find some value, I think, on his points, rebounds, and assists, etc. But poor Miami, man. Like, this is the playoffs. This is the finals. There's no more regular season where you can play whoever they were playing throughout the regular season. Orlando Robinson, Yurtseven getting minutes against the Nuggets. Like, those guys aren't coming. Zeller isn't made for this series, regardless of the fact that they need his size. Maybe he gets out there for like 5-6 minutes, but that is just pure chewed up food for Jokic to swallow. So, there's just no matchup for him in the NBA. Maybe Bam, like you said, maybe AD was one of the better options, but like he gave up a 21 rebound game to Joker in this last series. Obviously, it didn't work as they got swept. So he's all over it. There's just no scenario where Denver wins this series and he's not the MVP as well. Everything just rotates around him. So there's just really not much value anywhere else with him from a future standpoint than this one. Because as you said, minus 2,000 for him to be leading assists and rebounds. Like, either of those, you just get zero value. So I'm going to move on to my first bet, which obviously correlates in that Denver's not only going to win this series, but I like the minus 1.5 for them on the spread of the series, meaning that they have to win in 6, right, or fewer games. And I believe in that strongly. I don't think this one goes 7. The minus 160 for that to happen is on DraftKings, where it's way better than everywhere else. And that was sort of the first thing that drew my eye to this bet was like, whoa, it's minus 184 on FanDuel and it's minus 175 on MGM. You're not really going to get it anywhere close to this. There's like some other ones like Bet365, if you have an account, I think is about minus 162. But DraftKings is just clearly the best value for this particular bet. I like it. I still think it's solidly worth it. I think this goes 5 or 6 max. I think most of us believe that. So minus 160 is a fair price. A couple other things, before I just go into it real quick. I also am looking at the Denver sweep. If you have a Bet365 account, that is where it's best at plus 575. But like most importantly on DraftKings and FanDuel, it's way better on FanDuel. Plus 460 for FanDuel, plus 380 on DraftKings. So, just looking at what it is on 365, like I said, if you're in a couple of those states that has that account available to you, you can get that at a really good price for the sweep. I think it's just worth it a little bit based on how much better of a price you get on that particular site. I also consider Nikola to get 20 rebounds in a game. He's only done it once in these playoffs. He's gotten 19 and like 17 or 18, like 6 times combined. But the thing is, it's plus 950 for him to get 20 plus in game 1. So, like, if you think this game goes like 4 or 5 series and you think he's going to do it once in 4 or 5, maybe 6 games, and you think he's going to do it once in that time frame, it's kind of worth it to just bet the plus 950 for alt rebounds at 20, then just take one plus 275 for him to get 20 in any game. That's what the series price is, right? It's like not really worth it. Just something to consider also while you're betting his rebounds in game. So, the only other thing I would say for the minus 1.5 here is really just following up on what you said, and the fact that I think we need to look at Miami as a different team. They're not the same team they were in the regular season. It's completely different. So precedence isn't really present for us here, especially when they're looking at the way they played Denver this season specifically, where they obviously lost twice, decently higher scoring games, but not really feeling that in this one. I think Miami's key here is going to be like, are they going to be able to stop the fast break? Because Denver is fast breaking their balls off when they're playing in Denver at the Ball Arena, with 18 fast break points per game in these playoffs when they're playing at home. Miami's been pretty good at defending that, but I think it's just going to be a lot of, especially in game 1, Denver just piling it down their throats and just going to the rim as often as they can and getting in transition as often as they can to just play and outscore a Miami team that I think will see some tired legs by the fourth quarter in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been in lockstep about this since the middle of the conference finals, or even before that, betting Denver plus odds to win the title and thinking that it's not going to be that close, not 7 games. So I basically have the same pick, but it's a different way to play the odds, where I'm not going to take the sweep. I think what you're doing is the safer bet because you're guarding against the sweep. If it's not going to go 7 and Denver's going to win. But if you take Denver in 6 at plus 430 and Denver in 5 at plus 265, then either of those happen and you're netting, the same gain minus up 100. If you're doing $100, basically you retract plus 100 off either return. You get a bigger return if it winds up being 6. Because I just don't agree with the public attacking a sweep. MGM reported the highest handle on Denver 4-0. I mean, you can't doubt Miami that much to say like they won't get a game. I mean, they think about the 2020 finals when they were also overmatched, when they were also exhausted. And Jimmy pulled out 2 triple doubles, averaged 37.5 in those games, and they won 2 of them. They just found a way, even though they like clearly were overmatched in the other games and almost had no shot. And both these teams are great in the clutch. So if we get some clutch games in these playoffs, like all the way to the regular season, Miami played, I believe, a record 54 clutch games, and they had the second best net rating in those games. Denver played in 37 clutch games, had the third best net rating, and they're also second and third in defensive rating in the clutch. So that's why I think we'll have a lot of close games. Miami has shown that if you let them hang around, they can steal games. I mean, obviously, they've won all 3 game ones on the road. I don't know if they get this game one, given the circumstances, but I think they'll find a way to split the first 2. They've been great at home. Denver's less so on the road. I just don't think Denver's going to finish this season, this entire playoffs undefeated at home. I think Miami will find a way. I know they're going to have some regression 3-point shooting in terms of shooting 40% on the road in these playoffs. But look, I mean, people have been calling for them to regress, and there have been ebbs and flows in the last series, at least against Boston, some against New York as well. But you just can't really bet against this team and Spoelstra, whose track record speaks for itself the last few years, even with the pieces they have going up against Joker. I think they'll find a way to win a game or 2, but Denver is looking like the championship favorite for sure.
Yeah, I think by the time we get to the end of this series, even if it's game 5 or 6, I think you're going to see even more fatigue set in for the Heat. I still don't think they're fully healthy nearly as much as Denver seems to be, right? There's that's the only team in the playoffs that we haven't really heard much about guys hobbling around, knock on wood, is Denver. And that's going to be a huge part of, I think, just the stamina factor. So I agree. I think we're all failing to see, picture game 3 with Denver on the road. They're just not the same team. Even those jerseys aren't as nice as their clean home white jerseys, honestly. And they just look so formidable at home. They're just flying past people, which they kind of are. As I said, they play a little bit faster and better in transition at home than on the road. And so when they're in Miami, I agree. Miami's going to win at least one game at home. I'm just talking about the series, the sweep price, because of the discrepancy between a couple of these books, if you can get it. So that would be the main reason to look at it. But overall, I just love my bet for them to win by more than 1.5 games, essentially, in this series. And your play is, like you said, just kind of right along with it, because I think we're both dismissing the idea that there'll be a game 7, and maybe we'll look silly, but I'm going to go with it. So I'm going to close things out on this series video here, Nate, talking about 3-pointers, because I was kind of looking at a way to bet this, thinking all right, Jamal and Michael Porter Jr. are my favorites. So how do I bet it? Because really, and so I'm taking both of them because they're such a great price on DraftKings. It's way better than other places for Michael Porter Jr. right now to lead the series in 3-pointers made. It's plus 380 on DraftKings for him to do that. And I'm going to put 2 units on it. And I'm also just going to kind of hedge it with Jamal Murray, saying he's going to lead the series in 3-pointers, even though he's the favorite at minus 145. Maybe you just throw 1 unit on that as a little bit of a hedge to the 2 unit. Yeah, I think that's definitely the play. You throw 1 unit on that compared to the 2 that I'm down to throw on Michael Porter Jr. to do this thing, because at this point, let's start with why it's not the Heat. Basically, that's my favorite reason to take this bet. Is I don't think KCP or anybody else on Denver is going to outscore one of these 2 from 3, especially just on the volume of the shots that Murray and Porter Jr. are taking from 3. But then you look at the fact that it's not going to be a Miami player. 6 players shoot at least 3.5 threes for the Heat. 4 of them make at least 2 a game, and there's a 5th guy who's making 1.8. I believe it's Jimmy, making 1.8 threes per game. Denver has 4 players, a few less, that shoot 3.5 threes, and they have 3 that make at least 2. So just there's a higher potency from where the threes are coming from on the Nuggets. It's the two guys that I mentioned and that I'm betting on here. For the Heat, it could be Gabe Vincent, it could be Max Strus, it could be Duncan Robinson. I mean, it's not going to be Jimmy because he's really not taking many more than 3. But there's plenty of guys on this Heat team right now that can just eat into the usage of the other guys. We don't know if Max Strus is going to get 30 minutes or if he's going to get 22 while Duncan Robinson plays 22, right? Like they're just splitting it up a lot now because they also kind of have to, with guys getting dinged here and there. Even Max Strus reported to have a little bit of an ankle thing. So like there's just too many guys getting on the floor for chewing into minutes for Miami. And there's a larger amount that shoot threes and make them. So, Michael Porter Jr.'s made 42. Jamal Murray's made 47. I like the fact that I'm getting so much juice compared to that when he's only made 5 more overall in these playoffs. And they're both shooting at about, Michael Porter Jr. is shooting about 41% to Jamal's 40%. So like it's pretty even in that standpoint. I think it's definitely going to be one of the two of them. And I think I'm at least I'm going for it with Michael Porter Jr. And then I'm at least getting myself a little bit back with 1 unit on Murray.
Yeah, I like this. I agree fading Miami, Miami and fading them to regress as a team against Denver, which was the number 1 3-point defense at home. And if you have 3 of the 5 games in the series, if it only go 3 of the first 5 in Denver, I don't know if anyone's going to really get scorching hot for Miami. It's pretty interchangeable. Spo's going to be pushing a lot of buttons in terms of getting guys in and out, like Strus and Duncan. And I just don't think game to game they'll have the consistency of volume. Certainly if Jamal, MPJ is a real wild card in the series, both defensively, where he's much improved as a defender. So maybe he can stay out there. And offensively, Miami, they don't really have anybody to deal. You can't bother his shot. I think they're going to have to leave something to deal with the 2-man game with Jamal and Jokic. And I think that's going to lead a lot of opportunities for Porter to maybe take more than the 7 threes he's been averaging in these playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with it. I definitely see at least 7 coming and him continuing that. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We got Game 1 player props. We also got Game 1 best bets. So check those out. Until we see you next, happy betting.